Welcome to the debate. When you look at the inside of a mechanical watch, every gear has this singular, absolute purpose.
Right. It's a completely closed universe of perfect predictability.
Exactly. If gear A turns, gear B just has to follow. Newtonian physics at its most comforting. But take that watch out into a hurricane, and suddenly those perfect internal mechanics are, well, they're subjected to an infinitely chaotic external environment.
Yeah. Water gets in, the system stops. The elements really don't care how well your gears are milled.
Which brings us to the Pendleton Pike bank heist, executed by the operators known as Ace and Main. Today we are asking, can 6 months of obsessive mathematical preparation actually turn a chaotic world into that closed system watch? I argue that their meticulous mapping weaponized the system's predictability to completely eliminate chance.
And I argue that anytime you rely on external, uncontrollable variables, you inherently need a baseline whisper of luck to survive.
So let's look at Ace's core philosophy, right? That shortcuts are a terminal illness. They basically replaced luck with fractions of a second. I mean, they hit the exterior loading dock at exactly 2:05 a.m. to exploit this rigid 8-minute guard rotation.
Right. The timing was flawless.
Yeah. And then they bypassed the door using a 10-second digital handshake through the maintenance port.
Wait, explain the mechanics of that handshake, though. Wasn't just magic?
Oh, far from it. By plugging into that specific port, they initiated a sequence that essentially tricked the door into thinking it was running a scheduled diagnostic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it forced the door to open itself. They didn't break in. They just operated in the blind spots of the building's own predictable routines.
Sure. I mean, the code is mathematically precise, but you can't hard code reality. Take the local police cruiser sitting in the alleyway. Ace predicted the officer wouldn't drive through the flooded drainage ditch just to avoid bottoming out.
Because it was a rational choice.
Yes, the topography was exhaustively mapped, but relying on a stranger, an officer just looking for shelter in a severe storm, to make a perfectly rational choice in the heat of the moment, that is a gamble. You cannot program human unpredictability.
Well, I'd argue that flood wasn't a gamble. It was an inevitability. Ace knew the city infrastructure in that sector hadn't been updated since 1992, right?
True.
So a rainfall exceeding 2 inches per hour mathematically guaranteed a storm drain backup. It's exactly like a master chess player. You don't, hope your opponent makes a specific move. You constrain the board so they have no other choice. They weaponize the macro environment.
Fine, let's say they successfully weaponize the macro environment. The moment they step inside, that illusion of macro control shatters against micro realities. The real world is not a chessboard. Ace herself noted the risk of a faulty fuse.
Right, but they accounted for that. They injected their authorization code exactly during the vault's 2-second verification delay.
Which still required the physical hardware to function perfectly. They were operating inside a 180-second window where the encryption layer dropped for the mainframe sync.
Right.
The vault opening during that exact window fundamentally relies on aging technology not glitching under pressure. A single rusted relay or, a minor power surge during that storm, and they are trapped in a steel tomb.
Well, they knew the technological limits, which is exactly why they exerted absolute control over the one thing they could govern, which is human psychology. Inside that freezing vault, they completely ignored the lower shelf boxes.
Because they knew they were rigged with tracker traps, yeah.
Exactly. And they strictly capped the cash bags at a 40-pound limit. Not because 40 pounds was all they wanted, but because that is the exact biomechanical threshold for sprinting.
The absolute physical limit.
Right. Any heavier and they lose the escape velocity needed to evade the perimeter response. In a room filled with millions of dollars, greed is usually the unwritten security measure that catches you. They replaced human desperation with mathematical discipline.
Controlling your own greed doesn't control the machinery and the walls, though. They survived the traps, yes. But extreme preparation only shrinks the margin of error. It doesn't erase it.
You don't think so?
No. Surviving the physical and digital chaos of a torrential downpour will always require a little bit of fortune.
perfect execution still demands that the unwritten variables, the fuses, the weather, the passing strangers, act exactly as expected.
Well, I mean, King, that ruthless discipline fundamentally changes the nature of the operation. By mapping the guards' rotation, the vault delay, and even the city's 1992 drainage capacity, Ace and Main transformed a gamble into a calculated execution.
And ultimately, you have to ask yourself, when you take that perfectly milled mechanical watch out into the hurricane, are you surviving because of the gears, or are you just lucky the casing hasn't flooded yet?
A fair point. The source material offers so many more layers to this operation, from the specific frequency scramblers used to the psychological toll of the 6-month wait. We'll leave it to you to explore further and decide for yourself if the perfect blueprint truly exists.